Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the day number 1 of week 2 here of the Mobafire Challenger Series. I'm Sean Forecourt Jester Delaney, and today with me, Matthew Azaraki Dragon Waters, and we're going to be broadcasting to you live here on Twitch TV/MCS Esports. Now, today, we're going to have some of the top Challenger teams go head-to-head in best-of-1 series. We got 4 matches lined up, and before we get into the first match, let's take a quick look at the teams who made it here today.
Yes, and first up, we have Reality Check Gaming, who's looking for their first win already against New World Eclipse, followed by Complexity Academy versus the undefeated Wasabi Gaming. After that, we see FXO Open versus GGLA, and last off, to round out the night, Tempest versus Team Tower Dive. Got some great games today.
Yeah, day number 1 here in week 2 is going to be ramping up in just a moment. Both teams are here ready to go, and you are watching this on MCS Esports. You guys are following, I assume, by now, because why not? There's so much great stuff you can do here with Mobafire. We're giving away prizes, not only from Fatality, but from Razor as well. We got thousands of dollars to give away to those that are following us there, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Go to the website. Make sure you're following all those awesome accounts so you have a chance to win some prizes. And I believe we have a new feature that we're unveiling today on the website.
Yes, if you look at the main page for our website, just www.mcsesports.com, scroll down to the bottom. Near the left side, you'll see the tip jar recently implemented. That's how you can donate to bring up the amount of money in the prize pool, as well as give some of the casters some tips if you like how we're doing.
Yeah, if you guys are familiar with the WPC tip jar, you like what we're doing, hit us up. You like what the teams are doing, hit them up. You can leave any amounts for either side. Wow, that league is actually really really loud. But we are going to jump into game number 1 here. As we said, Reality Check Gaming versus New World Elite. We're actually just going to be waiting for the ready check here from NWE. And nope, they are ready to go just as we are. And just like that, it's magic. Game number 1 of today's 4 going down. Who are we going to have here on the bands there, Azaraki?
Looks like already we've got an Aatrox ban coming out from Reality Check, so this is sort of an odd ban. I don't really see him too often, but he is a great duelist in the top lane, and certainly hard to bully out of lane with the amount of lifesteal he has. Although his biggest shortcoming is the fact that he is melee for almost all of his attacks. Now, Elise and Zac, much more common bans. Elise is very strong with the amount of damage she can do. Even if she doesn't get a huge gold advantage in the early game, she still has percentage damage of your maximum health as well as an execution, which is really great for her. And Zac, he's an amazing top laner and jungle. He's got such a long range initiate on his elastic slingshot, so I can definitely see why that is banned out as well.
Yeah, that elastic slingshot, those ganks, you never see them coming. It's like going back to the old days of Nocturne jungles. It's like, yeah, that's okay, they got a Nocturne, he's nowhere here, let's engage, bam, paranoia, infinite darkness, and all of a sudden it's a 3-on-2. So, you know, really commonplace bans these days. Nunu also going to be getting a ban slot still, even after the nerf. This is current patch 3.9, and that consume bonus has been drastically reduced. It still actually outdoes Smite despite the patch notes by 10 damage, but it is a nerf for this patch. It still looks like that it's warranted for a ban.
Yeah, it's just going to make it that much harder for him to actually outsmite a smite, but still, he's a very strong jungler. He's great at counter jungling. You know, you can easily just walk in, take a large camp with consume, and then run out. You also have some great escape mechanic, as well as pretty good ganks on top of that with Snowball, setting up perfect ganks, making sure that the opponent is slowed quite a bit so that your lane partner can easily go ahead and do as much damage as he can to hopefully pick up the kill or at least pop a flash. Now, Kayle is the last ban, and I think I've been seeing a little bit more of her recently, especially after that new sort of Nashor's Tooth rework that they had.
Yeah, the Nashor's Tooth rework, but X-Shepherd here on Blue Team on Reality Check Gaming, one of his top champions is actually Kayle. Huge win rate, like 400 ranked games with Kayle, so that definitely feels like a bit more of a targeted ban. And there we go, Thresh going to be the first pick. Still a very powerful support to be picking up, and if he's not on that ban board, you can almost guarantee first or second pick.
I'm actually a little bit surprised that he wasn't banned out during this game. You know, he's always been this powerhouse of the support. He can make plays all the time. He's one of the biggest playmakers as support. Jumping in with his death sentence as well as following up with the box really helps turn a team fight around, initiate a team fight. There's just so much mechanic under Thresh that he's, if you don't get him banned, then he's probably going to end up being a first pick. And something letting him slip through, we'll have to see where both of these teams' heads are at, but I do like the Thresh pickup. Now on the purple team, we see a Twisted Fate, very, very popular in North America, and followed up by a Nocturne as well.
Oh dear.
So they've got some really nice synergy right here. All of a sudden, bot lane, we're going to see Darkness. All of a sudden, Nocturne's going to come out of nowhere. Then Twisted Fate's ultimate, all the way down to the bottom lane. He's going to have to walk there a little bit since the range is not what it used to be, but at the same time, it's still a gigantic gap closer, so they're going to be able to make a ton of action happen in the early game. And on top of that, they also have some pretty good teamfight initiation with Nocturne. He normally builds tanky now, so that's something that he can use to his advantage, jump into the back line, get a fear down, and then Twisted Fate can follow up with a teleport in of himself as well as a gold card. So a lot of synergy between those two picks right now.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned the whole Nocturne way back in the day synergy, because bam, there it is, JD Wu busting that one out. But Twisted Fate, again, looking at that, our Twisted Fate is likely going to be going to Xiao, because Xiao, of his top 3, Twisted Fate is a very solid second for him, so it's going to be a really nice pickup. If we can actually solidify what we're going to get here out on blue, we're thinking, alright, there it is, it's going to be locked in. It is going to be Jayce and Graves. Looking at Jayce, don't really actually see him in the top champions for Tofu. I think he's actually down there about 4th. But, Graves, really solid ADC. And something I didn't mention a bit earlier, although I did mention it to you just privately, blue team, Atlanta. That's Dadlanta. That is the old school picture of a goose team captain playing here for Reality Check Gaming.
Yeah, that's going to be very strong for them. We know he's a great player, so we'll see how he works with the rest of their team. And the Jayce pick, still a very strong pick. During the last patch, he did get nerfed a little bit, as his acceleration gate now has a much longer cooldown, especially in the later levels, where it no longer scales down with level in terms of how long the cooldown is, but it's a flat amount. So he's not going to be able to throw out acceleration gates for initiations, retreats, as well as shock blast combos as much as he could before, but he can still poke out quite a bit even with that lower cooldown. And they did increase the missile speed of his shock blast that isn't accelerated by an acceleration gate, so he's still going to have some pretty strong poke without that, and maybe we might see a little bit more in terms of mana management that way as well, just making sure, throw out a shock blast every now and again that isn't accompanied by an acceleration gate, because it's not almost an automatic miss anymore.
Yeah, the 3.9 patch has definitely brought a few different changes. Something else to also note is that you can't really stack your tiers really as quickly as you used to be able to with some of the champions like Nidalee, like Elise, like Jayce, who we do have here, very likely in that top lane. But without that, stacking pressure, it's going to take a few extra minutes, because they also increase the internal cooldown on the mechanism for stacking the tiers. So we're going to have to see how that, factors into the play. Xiao, though, going to be picking up Twitch. We also got a Morgana. I might be so bold to say this could be a support Morgana, because we do have that Twisted Fate. But that Twitch, very likely, that's going to be going off to Virus, and I hear really good things about a Virus Twitch.
Yeah, he's very strong on that champion. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the synergy of Morgana support, because that's what it's looking like. We might be seeing maybe Morgana top, but I think support might actually be a little bit more likely here in this scenario. So her and Twitch are going to make a great combo. Imagine a snare that Morgana lands. That's some automatic poison procs that Twitch can get down over and over and over again with auto attacks, with his cask, and on top of that he can use Expunge, and it looks like Zed will be the final pick for New World Eclipse. So I think we're going to go ahead and see a Morgana support.
Oh, yeah, I was looking at that Karma, man. I was like, that Karma could not be a real Karma pick. That has to be a placement pick, and I do think it was. That's going to ring true. Not entirely too sure if Morgana was actually a placement or not, but it would be very interesting to see that Morgana in the support role. It's not something that we see commonplace. We have seen it a few times in previous tournaments, just kind of like those one-off kind of comps. I know that back when IPL was still around, it was Afromu. He used to run with a Morgana support bottom lane, and they did a big LoL homework thing with Hat Person on it. And, it looks very powerful, but in practice, you just really don't see it that often. So they didn't tell us who that Karma is actually going to be, but it is going to be a Karma. Okay, they're actually going to keep with that. So a Karma support bottom lane to go with the Graves. Atlanta's going to be our jungler because we still have Fragnatic there. Fragnatic's the ADC of Reality Check Gaming. Trying to remember what they actually locked in. I think it was a Nasus?
Yeah, I believe it was Nasus. I remember it being hovered over, but I'm not entirely sure whether or not they finalized it and locked it in. But let's talk about Karma for a sec, because as you said, we don't see her very often at all. And basically, Karma's strengths comes in the fact that she can poke down quite a bit in the early game. She's got a lot of power on her Q, and if she mantra charges it, gives her a little bit more damage, and it looks like instead of the Morgana, we're gonna get a Nami, so a little more conventional, maybe not as exciting. I think I would have liked to see Morgana support, but I think this is a little bit more practical. But with Karma, something that you do have to be careful with when you are against a support Karma is you have to be careful of the bushes. If she lands her W, her sort of tether, then she can slow you afterwards with her Q, with her poke, and that'll slow you down, so it'll keep you in range of the tether. And once the tether goes off, you are snared for a little bit. And that's something that will really help Graves out in this lane, because he can easily quick draw buckshot, put out a ton of damage that way, right in your face. Shotgun to the face, never really fails all that much to do quite a bit of damage. So that's something I want to see how they're going to be able to make this work, because at Karma, it's a toss-up. It really is. The purple team, Nami, much more conventional support.
So those of you that are curious why they actually did restart, they were using Morgana as a placeholder, and what a placeholder is they're going to pick a champion that is actually not going to get played, but it was agreed upon by both teams that they were going to remake it into that new champion. But of course, we did have New World Eclipse actually tell Reality Check Gaming that it was not a Morgana, that it was a Nami, so there's no surprises here. Nobody's pulling any punches. As we said, Nami not going to be a Morgana, but hey, that's alright. It's not the end of the world. A bit more standard. That's okay. So that's going to be a Virus and JD Wu in the bottom there. Cloud Titus there in the jungle with the Nocturne. It is going to be, of course, that Nocturne, that Nasus jungle with Atlanta, because again, we did have Fragnatic. I was curious to see if he was going to be an ADC. But the only real thing that I can contribute towards what I see in Karma is just the absolute domination she has in an ARAM.
And she does have quite a bit of domination in an ARAM, and that's more on the fact that she has quite a bit of poke. Now, late game in Karma is very interesting. You have to play her kit really, really well, and one of her strong points late game is using her mantra charge on her E, making sure that everyone on her team gets a shield. It's sort of like a Locket of the Iron Solari and a Shirelius, because it also speeds everyone up. If you can use that correctly, then it'll be really powerful. But on the other hand, it uses up a mantra charge. So that's a mantra charge that you're not going to be able to use to put out more damage on your Q. Not going to be a mantra charge that you can use to heal yourself with your W. So if she misplaces that, then something is probably going to go wrong with their team fight. However, it is a pretty heavy engage comp that the blue team has. We have Thresh, who can make action happen really, really easily. Nasus can follow up, put down a Wither on the AD carry, put down a Wither on Twitch. It's going to slow his attack speed quite a bit, and it really works well against Twitch, because you don't want his ultimate proccing on every member of your team multiple times really quickly. That's something that late game Twitch makes him really, really scary. So we're going to see this sort of weird synergy from the blue team, but I want to see how it works. Whereas the purple team, we're seeing a lot more of that big global pressure, and I don't know if I exactly call it global anymore with these two champions, but they do have quite a good amount of ganking power from long distances. So I'm really excited to see how that turns out.
Yeah, we got a few seconds left here, guys, but when we come back, Reality Check Gaming going to be taking on New World Eclipse here. Game number 1 of week 2 here on day number 1. Wow, game 1, day 1, week 2. We're going to come back with the Atlanta, with these teams. Don't go anywhere. For Jester and Azaraki Dragon, we'll see you in a minute. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, here into the loading screen. We have on our blue side, Reality Check Gaming going up against New World Eclipse. Best of one here in day number 1, week 2 of the MCS. Make sure you are following all the social medias out there, guys. Lots of prizes to be given away by our social managers. Big thanks to our sponsors, of course, iBuyPower, Fatality, and Razor for making those dreams happen. And look at Atlanta with that Vulcan logo. Aw, he's such a cutie.
Although, one thing we didn't actually talk about during the champ select and the 3-minute delay is the fact that both supports in this game decided to take Ignite. So that's going to give them a little bit more laning power. However, they're not going to have Exhaust, which, neither team has an Exhaust at all. And even though, it does quite a bit, I would still think that it's a summoner spell that's worth taking for sure, especially when you're against champions like Twitch, Graves. They have quite a bit of power, and you want to try to shut them down as much as possible. We'll see how well they can do with their Ignite. Late game, the Ignites aren't really going to be as useful as an Exhaust would, so they're going to have to see if they can do it early, but we might be seeing an early level 1, but a ward goes out, and it looks like they're just going to be able to back off from that.
Yeah, unfortunately they were discovered. I'm taking a quick look at Fragnatic. He's actually top lane, so it does look like we're going to have a swap come out. And I was just thinking about this on the transition as well. Shepard is typically the mid player here for Reality Check Gaming, as well as Shao. So if they are going to stick to that, as some poke goes down, Quas getting the ugly end of that stick, we're going to see a Twisted Fate versus Karma mid matchup.
That would really be sort of an odd choice right there. Karma mid does quite a bit of damage, like we keep talking about. She's got a lot of poke damage, something that's going to help her out quite a bit. Late game, I'm wondering how well her damage is going to fare against a team with people like Zed, with people like Twitch and Twisted Fate. They've got so much more damage output. It looks like, they didn't really get the invade they wanted, but it looks like New World is going up into the top lane.
Oh, that's a very unfortunate Aqua Prism, but wow, look at that Lantern coming out. Bubba saving the day on top of Atlanta. It actually saved out his... Nope, did not save out his Flash. He doesn't have Flash. He has Ghost, but the Ghost was popped. The Lantern come down, and a miraculous save for not a First Blood. That, however, is going to be that blue buff stolen out. Atlanta, he doesn't care. He's like, I'm half health. That's right. I'm going to go right to my red. Tofu shift there to help out. And it will be that Karma mid with a Jayce bottom. Does look like both lanes of the ADC and support are going to go into the top. So it is the normal lanes. They're just kind of in the opposite lanes, so to speak.
Yeah, and Atlanta doesn't really care too much that he was low on health after that. His passive on Nasus really nice. Soul Eater, 14% bonus lifesteal. It's going to help him quite a bit when he's trying to sustain through the lane. Now, I'm wondering how these ganks are going to work out, because both champions, Nasus and Nocturne, aren't really too heavy in terms of their ganking in the early game. I think I would throw it to Nasus in that respect. Wither is going to be able to do quite a bit, but I want to see some of the ganking routes that these guys take, because already we're seeing quite a large amount of ward coverage. It looks like Nocturne is already going to go ahead and gear up for a gank in the top lane. The bush is warded in the river, but it looks like he's going for the try on his own side.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to test the water, see if they actually run away or not, because they are in a good spot there to come, around from the back. As long as we get that engage off, if we can get that Aqua Prison, that would be a great initiate to this fight. But Nocturne, he's just going to be taking his time. He's thinking about it. There we go. That's something I said. Oh, what a great Aqua Prison. Lands on both teammates, Fragnatic and Bubba. That's going to be the dash out for Fragnatic. Bubba now could be in some trouble. That's going to be the flash forward with the Fear and the First Blood. Unfortunately going to get picked up by Nami, but still, blood on the table. New World Eclipse, got to feel good about that one.
Yeah, JD, amazing play right there. The Aqua Prism really just set up that entire gank. The Ignite also helped secure the kill, and they popped a couple flashes. So what? They got First Blood. They're going to be able to push down this tower quite a bit, and generally that's sort of your #1 goal when you pull a lane swap. Obviously, both of these teams decided to pull that lane swap, sending their AD carry and support in the top lane, so not really going to be able to accomplish that original goal. However, they're going to be able to get some nice stuff when they go back, and it looks like, supports getting First Blood isn't too bad. Obviously, it would be really nice to get it on an AD carry, but she can go ahead and buy a Ruby Crystal, getting her a lot more tanky, as well as a couple of wards on top of that to prevent any counter ganks from Nasus, who is going to go for a gank in the bot lane.
Yeah, it's a really good timing here as well. Jayce looks like he was the bait. He's going to get real low hit points, though. Here comes Atlanta. Not really that much damage landing on top of Quas. Tofu Shift, got to be real careful. That's going to be the flash. The Shurikens, it will not work out for Tofu Shift, as Atlanta is still kind of just wandering around. He doesn't have those boots. He does have the red, but just the mobility of this Zed just has out-juked him so far. And here comes Cloud Titus. I'm not too sure if we're going to go for the tower dive. He is going to get some damage off there, juggling the aggro. Atlanta, however, is going to be able to pick up the return. That juggling this early on, not always the best of ideas.
Yeah, now in the beginning of that gank, we saw one of Nasus's real shortcomings in terms of his early ganks in the top lane. We have a little bit of action as they're going to go ahead and trade out a little bit. But as I was saying before, once he pops Wither, there isn't really too much that Nasus can do in a gank. He can put out a little bit of damage with Siphoning Strike, lower a little bit of their resistances with Spirit Fire, but on top of that, there isn't too much to follow up. So if their laner can't really capitalize all that well on the Wither, then it's not going to end up being a really good gank on their part. So unfortunately, the purple team, they ended up deciding to tower dive that, which at this early in the game, everyone's level 3, level 4, it's not really too great of an idea, as we just saw Quaz just taking so much tower damage, and he just couldn't survive that engagement. Yeah,
I was curious who Cloud is actually going to give this blue off to. We'll go to Twisted Fate. That means that both blue buffs, albeit very late here on the second blue, is going to be in control here from New World Eclipse. And with that being said, now it is going to be a blue Twisted Fate up against Karma. Karma already a little low on the mana, only has that Doran's Ring to sustain. In terms of the last hits, though, they're pretty even here in the mid. It has been very uneventful in terms of the ganks, but they have been farming up 46 to 43, pretty much just neck and neck. The boots and the pots. Pots not even really being needed here for Twisted Fate, but he should be able to start now pushing down a lot sooner and harassing a lot easier with that blue buff.
Yeah, I really like that early invade, and that's going to be able to allow Twisted Fate to put down quite a bit of pressure, but it looks like Atlanta finds him out and withers him.
Yeah, the gold card is going to come out very late, though. Almost half of his health gone already. Atlanta does get actually empowered, but top lane, Fragnatic is going to take down Virus in an engage while we were distracted there in the mid. Gold card is going to come out here onto Shepard. Flash forward here from Xiao as well. That's going to pop the barrier. Here comes Nocturne just to get this aggro off of Xiao, and Atlanta is going to go down. Looks like Fragnatic, however, did stay a little too late top lane as well, because he's down, and Nami picks up her second kill of the top lane.
Great follow-up in that sort of mid-lane engagement by New World Eclipse. They were doing a very, very good job of basically kiting around the other two members of the blue team. They were able to switch tank just a little bit, just enough to secure the kill, get them to back off a little bit, get them to get back into the fight. They were confusing the enemy team, and that was really something that helped them win that engagement mid. Good job on Cloud Titus to be there and make sure that he is right there to help with his mid laner should anything go wrong, and they ended up securing another kill on Atlanta. So, he lost out on his early blue buff. He does have a death. He picked up a kill, but he's not really going to be as far ahead as Nocturne will be. So it looks like with that map control, with that power, New World Eclipse is going to go ahead and try to take this dragon, and it looks like there's no wards out, so they're going to be able to take this completely uncontested.
Yeah, absolutely no vision. We do got some pings going down saying, hey guys, where's mid, where's bottom? So they have an idea that it's going on. 7-minute dragon, relatively early. We have seen stuff as early as 4 minutes in some of our games. I remember day 1 of week 1, we had Curse Academy just absolutely roll all the objectives by the 8-minute mark, like towers, dragons, everything. So picking up a dragon here at 8 minutes with a 4-2 lead, New World Eclipse, their gold has started to skyrocket. $2 grand already into this game.
Yeah, and we're already seeing that sort of in the builds right now. Both Zed and Twitch have their Bilgewater Cutlass going into a Blade of the Ruined King very, very soon, and that's really going to give them a lot of lane dominance as it stands. And we see Zed, he doesn't take mana, but it looks like we have a gank in the jungle, and it looks like he's going to be able to actually teleport out. Unfortunately, he's not going to have that ultimate up to go ahead and gank the top lane or gank the bottom lane, but at the same time, he got out with his life, and sometimes that's really good enough for you. So he started with an early Sheen, going to go ahead and build that into a Lich Bane, which is fairly standard on Twisted Fate. It's a pretty spammy champion on top of the fact that his pick a card is going to allow him to proc the Sheen, but in the top lane, another engagement.
Yeah, Fragnatic going to drop low as well. Virus flash forward from Bubba Dub. He's going to come on. He's looking for that kill. Atlanta's in pursuit. Cloud Titus used the ult, tried to deny the vision. Didn't quite work. We also had a fight there mid as Twisted Fate not looking so good, but the only deaths are actually going to be top and bottom as we had Quas take down Jayce. So that ended up actually being 1-for-1, just different lanes. Shepard now up here as well, looking for the kill on top of JD Wu. That's going to be the fear from Titus, but wow, look at the Superman charge coming up from Bubba Dub. He really wanted to go hard on that tower, but 4 top, 2 defenders. They're going to try to push in for this. this tower because look at this. Twisted Fate in the mid, pushing down that one. And in the bottom, same idea there for Zed. So we have to try to put up the pressure top because it's the only response we have here for Reality Check Gaming.
Yeah, both of these teams basically doing what they should be at this point. As you said, New World Eclipse is going to go ahead start pushing the mid lane. There goes the tower. The bot lane tower is going to follow shortly after. And, you know, the only thing that the blue team can really do about that is take their own tower in the top lane. So sort of trying their best to even out the gold difference. They weren't completely able to do it. But let's go back to this sort of... Well, it's bot lane, but they're meant to be top laners, I guess. But that matchup in the bot lane, we have Zed versus Jayce. And Zed, you know, he's gotten some really early kills. It's really nice to have on a champion like that, and he's going to be able to out-bully Jayce, and his all-in power is a lot more than Jayce has. Jayce, you know, he can poke, he can disengage, but with a champion like Zed, it's a little bit harder to disengage him. If he dashes towards you with a shadow, then he can immediately follow with an ultimate if he's knocked back. There's just a lot of ways that he can outplay Jayce in his kit, and Jayce is really just going to have to try to play the farm game during this laning phase, and unfortunately he's not really been able to do that, sitting at 60 CS compared to Zed's 81, and it looks like they're going for a jungle invade on the purple team's blue.
Is the blue actually up? Yeah, it is. 10 minutes. Normally you come into a game, you're like 10 minutes in, yeah, that blue's gone, man. I mean, 2 minutes, 7 minutes, 12 minutes. Yeah, no problem. But it did start off really late, so they should be able to grab this one. A great hook, but that was the tidal wave and the reset. Look at that Aqua Prison. It's going to be bumping up, throwing down the box just to play interference, and now the team is split up on 2 levels. The cliff really clearly separating them out here. That's going to be Twisted Fate in the back. Xiao coming in, looking for the kill on top of Atlanta. Will grab it. What's going on top lane, though? Fragnatic is trying to run from Twitch, but it's going to be Tofu Chef coming in with that slam dunk and the ignite, so they actually win the top lane as we still have Cloud Titus and Xiao in this bottom. Shepard now looking real good. He's going to come in here. Lots of hit points. That's going to be the gold card. Xiao trying to put up the spam. He gets the kill. Long range on top of Jayce right as he was positioning for that hyper accelerated shot. And by the time all the smoke clears, 3 for 2, actually going in advantage of Reality Check Gaming. But what happened top lane, Azaraki?
The top lane, Quaz the entire time was just pushing that tower down. Push, push, push. That's really the name of New World Order's game right now. You know, they lost that team fight, but they're 2 towers ahead, so they're not really hurting all that much in terms of their goal difference, and certainly not hurting in their map control. Now, I want to take us back to that fight a little bit as he's going in for a pick in the mid lane. Fragnatic getting bursted down extremely quickly right there. Unfortunate place for him to back.
Yeah, Quas saying, I don't care much for your theory craft, and there's a free kill right here. He picks it up, no problem. That puts it at a 3 for 3, but again, the tower objectives going the way of New World Eclipse. They have still maintained that gold lead. In fact, they've doubled it. In 4 minutes, they've doubled their gold lead.
It's a very strong showing by New World Eclipse. And one thing, once again, going back to that fight, I love the ward placement that Nami was able to put out the entire time. She was trying to keep sight everywhere, and that's something that really helped them out in that fight. Although the problem I saw there was the fact that after they split up, they stayed split up. They tried to fight each individual fight, and even though Cloud Titus was winning that fight in the bot, it's sort of the lower half, Nami was losing the fight in the top half. They weren't sort of together, and right there I think they could have regrouped sort of while keeping that bottom half of the fight alive. You know, keep fighting that while everyone comes back. But a great Nami ult in the mid lane. Yeah, that Nami ult, the tidal wave into the awkward prison, not looking good for Bubba Dub. We had a little bit of aggression come out from Titus, but eventually they did just disengage out of that one. I guess they weren't too confident on a 3 for 3 situation. We do got Karma in the bottom lane holding off this virus, but again, that's going to be the Zed in the top with that blue steal, by the way. This jungle is definitely theirs. No blue buffs today for Reality Check Gaming, and that's going to prompt this 2-man response as Tofu Shift gets shredded just upon entry into the lane. Unfortunately, even with that Nami ult in the mid lane, there wasn't really too much to capitalize on that. Nocturne, TF, Nami, themselves, they don't really have too much team fight power. Twisted Fate can put out quite a bit of damage on a single target, maybe if he lands some extra wild cards, but really their damage is going to come from both Twitch and Zed, neither of whom were in that fight. However, what they were able to do, they were able to distract them. They were able to keep Reality Check in the mid lane while the other 2 lanes pushed out. Zed still pushing the top lane the entire time, and Twitch was in the bottom lane. Shepard has gone back to deal with him. However, he got some great pushing out, sort of drew the attention all around the map. And right now, Reality Check, they're really split up, whereas New World Eclipse, they're going straight for another dragon.
Oh man, this is not good news. The Destiny revealing him. Over the wall comes Quas, and that death mark at the end just exploding our Karma player. Oh, unfortunate times. X-Shepherd now down, and that's going to be a great opportunity to go straight for this dragon. That would be 2 for 2, going the way of New World Eclipse. And, I mean, so far, their objective control has been flawless this game.
They've gotten so many objectives. I think they haven't really given up any objectives per se. You know, at the beginning of the game, it's hard to secure all 4, let's be honest, but they were in control of all the blue buffs, all the dragons. They're pushing towers down extremely well, and they're really in command of this game. We keep talking about how the gold difference just keeps on increasing and increasing. We're about a 6k gold difference at this moment. New World Eclipse doing really well across the map, and it reflects in their builds as well. We have 2 Blade of the Ruin Kings built on both Zed and Twitch. It's going to give him so much power as well as dueling power. And one thing about Zed is that he really uses the Blade of the Ruin King really well, because how his death mark works is when the death mark goes off, it deals more damage based on how much you hit the person, how much damage you do to the person after you apply the death mark. So comboing it up with a Blade of the Ruin King helps not only put out more damage and give him life, but give him a little bit more damage on that as well. Engagement in the mid lane.
Yeah, Bubba Dub is not long for this world, but it is going to be the flash, doesn't matter. Expunge at the end with the help of JD Wu, able to take it. Tofu Shift is looking for the kill on top of Shao. That Ignite is ticking. He's not going to get it, though. Tofu is down. Atlanta, however, will be able to clean it up for the glory of whatever sand people he came from, but he's down in the dirt as well. Top lane, nope, sorry, mid lane. Quas able to come in from behind on top of this grave. Just said, there's no front line, you're exposed. And that is going to be a 4 for 1 exchange, as Karma, fortunately, is the lone defender left on this. I'm curious, are we going to go see a Baron attempt after this?
16-minute Baron. I'm not sure if it looks like they're going for it. They have the map control, but I don't know if they have the damage. I don't know if they have the tankiness. They're going to have to switch tank it every now and again, switch whoever's tanking it, although Karma knows about it. She's going to go ahead and try to stop her as much as he can, but a nice Aqua Prism deterring her aggression.
Yeah, delay tactic. She throws out that Empowered. I'm not entirely too sure the Baron is actually going to yield that buff today. We got a Thresh now in the terms as well, but Quas, Cloud Titus, so low on the hit points. Great delay tactics coming out from JD Wu, but Virus is the only one with any kind of hit points after that engage, so it was really good for her to pressure that, make sure that that does not go down. I'm not entirely confident they would have had it either, but hey, wishful thinking. 14-7 and nobody left on the map. Sure, let's go get it. Just a little bit too early, that's all.
Yeah, a little bit too early, and they neglected to think of the fact that Shepherd was still alive, and a really amazing play by Reality Check. Even if Shepherd were to die in an 0 for 1 trade, it would still be worth it because she distracted them. They made sure that they took more damage, and at that point they couldn't tank it. Here comes another engagement.
These Aqua Prisons are on point. Twisted Fate coming into the back, looking for that back line, but we have been able to keep New World Eclipse just at bay until Quas comes in with that death mark, with those jukes coming in. That's going to be unstoppable spree for him. Double kill as Atlanta running for the hill. Shepherd not looking so good. Cloud Titus is sticking on him. He's going to be able to clean up that kill, and now Atlanta is running. That's going to be the tidal wave. It does hit him, but I think that was a wither on top of JD Wu. Virus is going to be chasing him out, but decides better of it. So Atlanta this round, the sole survivor, as they trade out 4 for 0 that round, and now this is going to be even more objectives going the way of New World Eclipse.
And New World Eclipse not only really far ahead in this game, but also playing to their team comp very well. They're able to initiate fights with Nami while the enemy is distracted. You know, they're trying to take the tower, and then bam, Aqua Prism. 3 people caught in it. That allows for a perfect engagement, followed up by a Twisted Fate ultimate. That's how their team fights are oriented, and you know, at this point they're so far ahead that it might not even matter. They're going to be able to win team fights either way, and unless they sort of mess up their positioning a little bit, I don't really see too much of a way for Reality Check to get back into this game in terms of team fights. They're going to have to find some other way in order to get back into this game. You know, they're able to take some of these towers whenever it calls for it. Like now, you know, every time there's some action, they want to be taking a tower. That's really what they need to do, get some of the map control back into their hands, as well as some global gold into their hands as well. At this point, the tower score is 3-4, so a lot better than we saw in the early game, and hopefully they can keep on putting the pressure to these towers. And at this point, you know, Nami's ultimate is down. This is a good time to go ahead, go around the map, and start pushing down towers, and they're doing just that.
Yeah, doing just that indeed. So, they're going to take what they can. No defenders here, bot lane. This last outer range turret going to be dropping. That's going to bring a little bit of extra gold to the pockets here of Reality Check Gaming. That's still almost 10,000 difference at the 19-minute mark. This is not looking long for this world. If we get, a few more of those trades, those 3 for 0s, those 4 for 1s, we're going to start seeing inhibitors dropping, possibly even those Barons successfully getting taken out, and then very swift end of the game after that. Shepard, however, not long for this world at all. He's going to explode as Quas now goes godlike. 8, 1, and 2. Has that Ruined Blade, has that Cleaver. Atlanta, he's just saying, no, this is going down. Shao, you are toast. I'm not too sure if they're actually going to get it. Yes, that's going to be the collateral damage. Tofu Shift with the lightning field, able to actually grab the kill itself. But because the entire team is top, look who's bottom.
Yeah, and all 3 members that are still left right there, and Quasa's still going to try to poke down as much as he can, trying to keep their attention here. The longer he can prevent the rest of Reality Check from backing, the more pushing that the rest of his team can do. And right now they're about to take this bottom tower as well, and Atlanta, there's not much he can do alone to stop this, and they're going to be able to take that tower. They're pushing out all of these lanes, really in good control of the game. And at this point, they have the items to sort of show for that as well. We see the Zhonya's build on Twisted Fate. So what he wants to do is he wants to go ahead, ult into the back line, land a gold card, land his wild cards, and then Zhonya's right afterwards before the focus goes onto him. And that gives the rest of his team enough time to follow up and follow on that initiation. So it takes the aggression off of him as soon as the Zhonya's wear off. So that's something I'd really like to see that build on Twisted Fate, and he's going to be just doing that over and over again. And Zed, at this point, he's got a Black Cleaver, also an amazing item with the amount of armor pen it grants. And it really helps the rest of his team out as well, because Nocturne as well as Twitch do a lot of physical damage, so it's going to lower everyone's armor and allow those guys to put out even more damage.
19 to 8, third Dragon now going into the pockets of New World Eclipse, and again that almost 10,000 gold lead has now gone over 10,000, actually hitting closer to 11. Still looking extremely good here at the 21-minute mark. Surrender now enabled, and typically you're looking for those big items, but we have a lot of items, as you were just mentioning, here on New World Eclipse. Now, we'd had Twisted Fate top lane. I was curious to see if he was actually going to be doing any kind of split pushing maneuvers. Typically, with Twisted Fates, with Shens, with Nocturne, you can do that to a degree. You have a lot of flexibility with those ultimates, but he's actually had it down. So he's recalled. They're a little bit here on the defensive, but I don't think they're really that worried.
Yeah, Reality Check is actually the ones in sort of a tough position right now. Yeah, they're on the enemy half of the map, but that's a little bit deceptive when you just look at it like that. It's going to be extremely difficult for them to poke into the enemy base at this point with over a 10k gold difference in the favor of New World Eclipse. If Reality Check try to force a fight, if they try to force this tower down, then they can expect a counter initiation. They can expect an initiation from JD Wu. It's just a really hard position for them, and at this point, as soon as New World Eclipse do win that fight, they can go ahead and push down 1 or maybe even 2 inhibitor turrets at this point in the game. It's really... I can't really think of too many ways that they can come back into this, but there goes the Nami ult.
Yeah, that's going to be the tidal wave. And notice Quas was coming in from behind, but he's going to get just decimated. Shao, however, doesn't care. He comes in with that Destiny. He gets the kill. Bubba Dub is now down. Atlanta's dirt and dirt on the floor as well. Now Fragnatic, his time is not looking so good. He almost grabs JD Wu in response, and the only person left alive is Tofu Shift, but for how long?
I don't know how long he's going to last, but the acceleration gate's going to help him out. No flashes. Actually, they do have flashes, so they're just deciding not to flash after him. Just scaring him back to his base is good enough at this moment. They have enough pushing power to take this tower down. They're waiting for the minions to show up, and one thing I really like about Quas, about his Zed play, he got caught out, but he was able to use his ultimate in order to get himself out of that situation. He dashes to the person who's farthest away from the action, puts out a lot of damage to him, and then immediately out. And at that same time, everyone was still trying to focus him. The entire time, Fragnatic was trying as hard as he can to secure that kill onto Quas, but he ended up getting it. But at the same time, all of that focus, there wasn't focus on the champs that were actually doing the damage to reality checks. So that's one of the main reasons they ended up losing that fight, on top of, as we said, this gold difference. And now Zed has a Warmogs. He's really strong, but there goes the Threshold.
Yeah, the Death Sentence comes in. Cloud Titus just kind of shrugs it off, had himself that spell shield ready to go. Virus just going to throw out a little bit of poison. You got to remember, Quas, he's coming in. He's just looking for blood. He's going to go right in. Finds Fragnatic. That's going to be the burst. Fragnatic now not looking so good. He just absolutely explodes. That Death Mark is doing some extreme damage at this point. That's going to be the cue for the rest of New World Eclipse to go in. Atlanta is going to get poison flash forward. Cloud Titus picks that up as Twisted Fate takes home Bubba Dub. Shepard now is also going to be joining them in the grave. And once again, Tofu shifts our Lone's Ranger, so to speak. Let's see if he can actually get out of this one.
Well, we'll see if he can go for it again. They're flashing this time, and it looks like they're going to be able to secure the kill. A lot of abilities going down. The kill finally going over to Zed. And, that was a really great capitalization by New World Eclipse. They caught out Fragnatic. They saw, even if you're trying to keep your AD carry safe by keeping him in the back line against someone like Zed, so that's not really always a guaranteed safety. He wasn't close enough to the rest of his team, and Quas was just able to full combo him to death, and at that point, the rest of the team fight just snowballed. Without Graves' damage, they don't really have nearly as much damage as New World Eclipse to compete in these fights, and that allows them to finally pick up the Baron Nashor. They were actually able to take it this time. No contesting whatsoever. The ace really helping them out right there.
Yeah, Baron Mark II here at instead of the 16 minutes at the 25. Mission successful. Well done, guys. If you also notice that Zed, he picked himself up a Warmogs before the last fight, so he said, all right, well, clearly if they can burst me down, picks up a Warmog's, probably not going to die again this game. But they did pick up his shutdown gold from the last fight, which is about the only positive thing you could say from Reality Check Gaming from those last fights. But 33 to 48,000 gold, we're looking at 15 grand, guys, between them. 25 minutes in, we have 28 kills on the board just for New World Eclipse alone. So, yeah, once again, my money's on them for closing out. They got the Baron, they got their items. We have another BF sword on top of Zed, who's been farming like a boss as well. Look at that, 232 creeps to his name. Nobody even close to that. Everyone else is just farming champions at this point. But, yeah, I mean, it's just been overall a top-notch game coming out from the Eclipse.
Yeah, as you said, Eclipse very strong in this game, and now the tables have sort of turned where it's New World Eclipse that's trying to push down into the enemy base, and the big difference here is that New World Eclipse can take these fights. They can push into the enemy base, they can bully the enemy team off of the tower and take it just from their ranged auto attacks if they feel like it, and it looks like right now they just want the minions to be pushing in their favor. Another thing that'll really help them out, because if they were to try to push in the mid lane just as it stood, the rest of the lanes, it wouldn't be pushing inwards. So all of the blue team's attention, all of Reality Check's attention would be towards the mid lane, and it's harder to push in when there's all 5 of them there. But at this point, split push, split push, split push, and Twisted Fate can get back into the fight whenever he wants. So this is something that New World Eclipse is really playing to their strengths. I really like this play, and they're going to be able to take one of these towers at the very least.
We were looking for an initiation there mid. Tofu shift just sidesteps that Aqua Prison. Doesn't quite get it landed. A nice heal coming out from JD Wu as well. Something you have to really give credit. JD Wu and these Aqua Prisons, these tidal waves for initiation have just been on point this entire game. Like 2, 3, 4 targets at a time. No problem. Virus is going to actually get hit by that death sentence. Not to worry. He just shrugs it all off. It's going to be the bottom lane. Fragnatic just blows up. Shao going on a rampage. Tofu shift is going to get down here. Try to just do things. But that's Shao coming in with that Destiny and the double. That's very likely going to be that tower. Mid lane, Virus going up against Shepard. Gets it. Quas, however, is still up here. Bubba Dub, the last remaining member on the front lines. He's going to go down as well. And that leaves Atlanta, who I don't think is actually going to be able to pick up Quas, but he's going to try.
He's certainly going to try. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to defend any of these inhibitors as well. So New World Eclipse, they're going to be able to take 2, maybe 3 inhibitors, or they might actually just go for the Nexus at this point. 4 seconds until Fragnatic is up, so he's going to be able to help them defend, but Atlanta being taken down extremely low. Not quite dead yet, but there goes one Nexus tower. There goes the second Nexus tower. It looks like this is GG as they get the Nexus. GG. New World Eclipse taking this first game of the day.
32-9. A very stunning victory for New World Eclipse, and that means that they're going to go 2-1 in their series here in week 2, so 66% win rate. They're the first ones to actually hit game number 3. Congratulations to them. Very dominant play, that's all I can say really. 11-2-8 on Zed, 9-3 on that Twisted Fate, and 23 of the 32 kills, Nami was involved. You can't get better than that.
Yeah, I would, however, like to see a little bit more itemization towards armor on reality check. Against this team, Zed, if you build armor against him, he's not really going to be able to burst you down as much as he normally would. And one of the big things about Zed is his ability to 100-0 champion. You know, dive into the backline, Deathmark, use all of his abilities. Blade of the Ruin King, there goes all of your health. That's the point of Zed. If you build enough armor, you know, he might not be able to take you all the way down at that point, and it'll really hurt him a little bit. However, we're not seeing too much armor at all. The only armor I'm seeing, actually, on reality check was the Aegis of the Legion purchased by Atlanta. So I think that was one of their shortcomings. And on top of that, you know, Nocturne, even though he's building tank, still does a good amount of physical damage. And even Twitch, who's, you know, Blade of the Ruin King, Phantom Dancer, he's putting out a lot of his own damage. So armor would have been something I would have liked to see in build.
14,000 gold in 28 minutes. Really good stuff. All right, game number 1 done, guys. We're going to get